funny. It's almost like Warner Brothers is trying to win me back. So I want to talk about the news that Joss Whedon is apparently in talks to direct Batgirl. This is unexpected on a number of fronts. I think a lot of us had kind of assumed that Joss Whedon was done with the big budget Hollywood system, at least for a little while. I mean, it's been a couple of years since Age of Ultron, so there's that. The last one he worked with was Marvel, and now he's talking to the other side, and another major thing, and it's funny, this whole conversation that he might direct it, which again, I'm going to emphasize right now, it's talks. He's not signed as yet, at least not at the time that I'm recording this. So him being in talks for this feels a little bit like the internet's desire made manifest. And I felt the same when Benedict Cumberbatch was cast as Doctor Strange. It felt like almost the collective please of the internet almost seemed like it made it a reality. And this feels a little bit like that too. This gives me the opportunity to be kind of positive and hopeful about DC movies. And that's nice. I mean, Joss Whedon in a lot of ways feels like a very natural fit. I mean, just given his very extensive work in creating and working with strong female characters, from Buffy to River Tam to how he worked with Black Widow in the Avengers movies. He's very good at this. He's always been good at this. And I think at this point, there's been a push lately for directors who are more reflective of the main characters when it comes to these kind of temple materials. So, we have a woman directing Wonder Woman, and they got a black director for Black Panther and so forth. I think Joss Whedon might be one of the few people that most pop culture folks will give a pass to, rather than insisting a woman direct Batgirl. So, I mean, this is good. I consider this good. Even beyond just the idea of him on this property being a good thing, I kind of want to expand the thought out as to why this could be a very good indication for a shift in managerial tone from Warner Brothers. And I touched on this a little bit when I talked about Matt Reeves coming back to the table and actually signing to direct Batman. And that is that you look at Joss Whedon and why he said he was done with Marvel. Basically, to the degree that Marvel was insisting he integrate Age of Ultron, incorporate and set up all the other stuff, it just burned the guy out. It exhausted him, and he was kind of done with that. So if he's coming to the table and saying that, maybe I'll direct Batgirl, in my mind, part of this conversation has to be, you guys need to give me the property and leave me alone and let me do it. And that's generally not really what Warner Brothers has been doing. They did that with Nolan and the Batman and his Batman trilogy, but other than that, I mean, we know the absolute mess that was all the interference on Suicide Squad. Given how much was chopped out of BVS, while there hasn't been as clear there, is probably a pretty good indication that they got heavy-handed in dealing with the post-production on that one as well. So if they can actually convince him, then in my mind, that must mean that they are putting in some assurances, and probably even in the contract, that he is not going to be massively interfered with, and that he is going to be granted some degree of autonomy to do what he wants to do. Because I wouldn't imagine he would even be in talks to do it otherwise. And if they're doing that, that's a shift. And that's a shift from the kind of micromanaging that's been screwing everything up. And especially when I look at the bigger scope of him being on this, Matt Reeves being on the Batman, Chris McKay being on Nightwing, these are guys that you don't just get to, to slot in. They're not Brett Ratner. They're not the guys you get into just shoot the script and deliver the film. They're guys with big ideas and big vision. Now, to be fair, so is David Ayer. That didn't save Suicide Squad. But at the same time, I feel like with the recent news of future projects, I still have my concerns for the projects that have been in the works under the way they have been doing things, which means Wonder Woman, which means Justice League, which means, Aquaman maybe. But it seems like looking further down the road, they're trying to realign, not just like in a, we need to steer the whole universe this way or that way, because that wasn't really gonna work so well, but it seems like they're adjusting the approach. And given my railing against Warner Brothers and their approach, this is nice, and this is refreshing to see. Now, again, it's still early. He's not firmly signed, and there are a couple things that are going to, I don't say causes for concern, but I'm kind of holding back and waiting to see how they pan out before I'm totally dancing in the street over this. So, like, for example, right now, Joss Whedon would write, direct, and produce Wonder Woman, but there are no other producers from within Warner Brothers itself currently attached to this. That, to me, is not a red flag, but that basically, to me, says they're putting him in the position that he was in when he pitched Wonder Woman to them, years ago, which was basically like, look, put together your pitch, we'll either take it or we won't. Nobody inside Warner Brothers itself has put their skin in the game. So that's one thing, and that's more of a, don't take it as a lock that this is definitely going to happen kind of thing. So there's that. There's also the fact that while this recent stuff has all been, in my mind, pretty good news, it's all been Batman related. So, on the one hand, that makes sense. Batman is the most lucrative character that DC has, and he's the one with the strongest track record in movies. But at the same time, I really worry that they're kind of abandoning the rest of the DC Extended Universe in favor of more Batman. Now, I'm in favor of more Batman if it's good. I mean, I'm in favor of anything comic book related if it's good. But at the same time, we've gotten Batman. We've had good Batman in multiple forms, in animated, in TV, and live action, and movies. We've got good Batman up the butt, but what we don't have is all these other characters and these deeper cuts and things like Justice League Dark, which they keep talking about, but it's not moving forward. Or they so could have beaten Sony to the punch with the idea of an R-rated superhero-related thing if they would just do Swamp Thing. So the one thing that does worry me in a kind of a broad sense is that I worry that they're going to sacrifice the rest of the DCEU in favor of buoying Batman, because from a strictly financial sense, that's what makes the most sense. Now, that having been said, this is still not bad news. This is good news, and I would rather be getting good Batman material than bad material with these other characters. I don't have an inherent desire like, I must see this character on screen even if it's bad. No, I don't want to see it if it's bad. So if they can realign, sort of using restructuring, and Batman is like the solid pole in the middle of it, and that's the main pole, and they dance around and restructure around that, I can work with that. This doesn't change my position that I still don't intend to see Wonder Woman at this point. I still don't intend to see Justice League at this point, because those films were made under the umbrella and under the management style that I have railed against and that I hate. But if they can keep making the kinds of decisions that they appear to be making now, with getting someone like Joss Whedon, with getting somebody like Matt Reeves, with getting somebody like Chris McKay, and when production actually gets going on any of these things, they leave them alone and just let them craft what they have been hired to do, I could be back on Warner Brothers' side on this. And I haven't been for a while. And that's kind of crazy, especially how hard I railed against them in the not too distant past. So you're headed in a good direction, Warner Brothers. Keep heading there, and I might just come along with you. So that's it, guys. Surprisingly positive thoughts on Warner Brothers. It's a nice change of pace, isn't it? In any case, what are your thoughts on this particular development? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.